Hey guys, Shane McMurray from the Wedding Report. In this episode, I meet with Lisa. She is the owner of Krikawa Jewelers. They are a custom jewelry design shop located in Tucson, Arizona. Check it out. Lisa, thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it. Tell me about your business. Tell me where you guys are located. Give me your website address, your Instagram account, all that good stuff.
Okay, so I run Krikawa Jewelry Designs. The website is krikawa.com, and that's Krikawa.com. We are located in the heart of Tucson, Arizona, and we do primarily custom bridal, wedding and engagement rings, and we've been doing that for about 20 years. So started from my garage here in Tucson, Arizona, and primarily are internet-based, although we have a beautiful showroom, but the majority of our customers are from out of state.
You started this in your garage?
Yes.
Awesome. That sounds, yeah, I've been there. I actually started a paper company in the early 2000 before I ever got into the Wedding Report piece in our garage.
Yeah.
So,
nice. It
awesome.
happens.
It happens. You got to start somewhere, right?
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about, you said most of your customers come from out of town. So how do you guys connect? I mean, what, do they find you online, or do you guys get referrals from other people that you've done business with? How does that typically happen for you guys?
Well, it's mostly online. So I launched the website in 2002, and then really I spent years studying SEO, how to build a website, what makes a site sell, because I wanted to start a family and I wanted to work from home. And I had been doing craft shows. So I wanted to just stay at home, have some kids, launch a business. So
makes sense.
Yeah. So we really did. My husband and I just became very adept at search engine optimization, internet marketing. And it's to this day, we continue to work in that arena.
That's great. So they find you online, they connect with you, and then you guys talk about design, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have a really interesting process. I mean, high-end custom jewelry online, right? So It's sort of a unique niche that we've cornered pretty well. So people typically start with an inquiry. We have a huge portfolio on our website.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what people want,
Just straight out, right? Like what you already have,
Yeah, if we're lucky. So, and we don't have any inventory, so everything is always made to order. Nice. And usually, though, there's some modifications, there's some adjustments. They either want to combine a couple pieces or even start from scratch. So they'll either email us, schedule an appointment with a design consultant, like what we're doing right now, right? Just a video meeting, a phone call, or just email. And they'll start with one of our design consultants, and it just is a process of question and answer and building slowly from sketch to rendering to final piece, building the rings of their dreams.
Yeah. So how long does that, so let's say you and I meet, you want to build me a custom ring. We talk about it. How long does it usually take for you guys to do the whole process?
Well, I'll tell you, it takes us less time to make the rings than it does to come up with their design in some cases.
Sure.
So, but so I would say, I mean, typically the process of like working with the customer to design the ring is the first section, and that's that could be anywhere from a week to a couple of months, really, depending on how much they know and how prepared they are to design a ring.
Is there a lot of back and forth with
There is usually a lot of back and forth, and then sometimes it's just like an hour-long consultation, whether in person or over the phone, and that we can just ask all the questions and help them narrow it down really quickly. So if we can get them on the phone or in person, we're much faster at helping them to come up with their ultimate solution than it is by email. Email goes back and forth. And then once the design is decided upon and the pricing is created and they've made a deposit, which a 50% deposit, then we start making the ring. We'll start by CAD modeling, and then so we model it in 3D space,
Yeah.
and then create a rendering of the image so that they can see it. Now they've already seen a sketch, right, or an illustration of some
Sure.
sort, or a mock-up, but the CAD rendering, and is exact, right? It's the exact proportions, and it's exactly their stone, their ring size, and it's colorized for them to see. So it's the final approval point. Once they approve that, then we're at about like a 3-week turnaround time to make it. But each one of those steps in the design can take time depending on how much modification there is.
Yeah, I gotta imagine. Yeah. So what are you guys seeing? Like, there's got to be some popular things that you guys are seeing in general. What would you say is?
Yes, rose gold, alternative center stones, and delicate designs, I would say by far and away is what's popular. Now we have a unique sort of luxury niche, so we tend to build sort of bigger pieces often, but not always. So we get a lot of inquiries for unique diamonds, you know, raw diamonds, rose cut diamonds, included diamonds, you know, the salt and pepper diamonds, and lab created stones, sapphires, moissanite. Of course, we definitely sell white diamonds, but lab created diamonds also. And I mean, just as far as the center stone alternative is the norm right now for us.
Do you feel like that people are going more towards a lab created diamond for various different reasons?
Well, the lab created diamond industry has just exploded.
I know. It's actually been,
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, from 2 years ago when we were selling lab created diamonds then to now, I mean, it's almost not a couple of weeks that don't go by when we get another vendor calling us, oh, we have a new whatever
lab created stone.
We have a new grow room, you know, and so
interesting. Yeah, but they're calling you, but are customers actually requesting it? Because that's the difference, right? It's like,
oh, we get more vendors than we do customers.
Oh, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, so that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's scary.
It's similar to like when rose gold first came out, right? Like everybody was all over it, but personally, you know, in my general surveys, I didn't see anybody really. I mean, it's a small percentage of people that even cared about rose gold. You might see it more now in the luxury stuff, and you might see it more now in various different fashions, but consumers really weren't like, whatever. They were kind of like, whatever. So I was just curious, like, because you know, in the jewelry business, it's all about, there's a lot of vendors that work in the space to sell you supplies, right?
Definitely.
And those folks are pushing trends that probably don't even exist yet, right? So they're just trying to get stuff out.
Yes.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So you talked about delicate designs. Explain what that means.
Well, I mean, if you go onto Instagram, you can just see, if you just look at engagement rings on Instagram, it's basically what I just described to you. You know, they're the narrow bands, tiny little diamonds, and it's just really popular. It's actually a little bit of a thorn in my side because rose gold in a narrow band is a bad idea.
Really? Why is that?
It's because it's just not hard enough. I mean, they want to wear this for their life, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
So, and rings take a beating.
Yeah.
You don't actually realize it, but the rings on your hands, from the shower door to the pots and pans to the car, you don't realize it, but rings take a beating. And, you know, rose gold is a great metal. And we've done, you know, I've made hundreds and hundreds of rings, if not thousands, in rose gold. However, the narrowness of what people are showing on Instagram, I mean, they're so narrow. And I just know from experience, I've made so much jewelry, and we've made rings and have repaired rings. We've made over 10,000 custom rings. So I have a lot of experience with what will hold up. And a tiny little, you know, 1 millimeter rose gold band is just a bad idea. So we get people going, oh, I want it to look like this, and it's narrow. And so a little education, but we do that all the time.
So are there metals that work best for like the narrow band? Platinum, yeah. It's a stronger metal.
It's more dense. And it has a nearly perfect wear resistance. So, I mean, it's like a thick, right? It's dense metal. And then it doesn't wear down like golds. Platinum will will move around. It'll, like, the molecules will shift, so you can
Mhm.
scratch it, but they don't slough off. It's just a
Interesting.
completely different type of metal than gold. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, gold's really soft in general, right? So,
Well, I wouldn't
um,
call it really soft. I mean, fine gold is really soft.
yeah.
But I mean, gold is a great 14, 18 karat gold is a
Okay. Yeah.
great
You
hardness
got it mixed
for,
with other metals, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great hardness for rings. Holds up, you wear it for a lifetime. Absolutely. But there's a thinness factor, right? You can
Yeah. I
only go
got
so
you.
thin.
Okay. I
Yeah.
got you. So what makes rose gold rose gold? What's different about it?
Copper.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the alloy, so pure gold is 24 karat gold, and
Yeah.
then 18 karat gold is 18 parts pure gold and 6 parts alloy. So if you have an 18 karat rose gold, it's 6 parts of a copper alloy mix. And then,
Interesting.
so like, and then we go to white gold, which is, like, say 14 karat white gold is 58.5% pure gold, which is orange.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the rest is an alloy. It's either nickel or palladium, which are both white. However, you mix, I mean, imagine taking 58% orange paint and the rest of it white paint. What's the color going to be?
Yeah.
It's
It's gonna
not
be
white.
scale. No, it's
It's
not. It's
not
gonna be
white.
scale. Yeah.
And neither is white gold. It's a light brown. So,
Interesting. That's good. Thanks
yeah.
for the education on that.
Yeah.
So what would you say is some advice that you would give couples that are looking for a custom ring? What kind of advice would you give them?
So I would start by doing a little research. Now, when you say couples, it could be couples, it could just be the man, it could just be
Could be
the
the
woman.
man, could be the woman.
There's no, there's no rules anymore
There's
of
no
who
rules.
buys. You buy your own ring, buy your partner their ring, go in together and buy it together. Yeah, I mean, it just goes all different ways.
Right.
So when you're looking for a ring, definitely start by looking at images or looking at rings in person. I mean, I personally would just suggest, like, Google Images or Instagram, just Pinterest, just flip through images and start to get an idea of what you're attracted to. And then once you've narrowed it down, and just go with what your eye enjoys, go with what you like to look at. And then once you've narrowed it down significantly, or you've come up with like 2 or 3 or 4 different designs that you really like, then move to work with a professional, and whoever you're choosing to make your ring. And then first vet them out, make sure they have 100% satisfaction guarantee, because on a custom ring, the majority of the industry standard is no return, no refunds on custom.
Yeah.
So you really want to watch out for that, because if their process isn't, if they're like a place that's 10% custom, they may not have vetted out their custom process. They don't want to lose money on the custom. And so they're saying no refund, but they might not be able to entirely communicate with you properly, and your final ring isn't what you were dreaming of. So that's why I would say, first, just make sure you're working with somebody who has lots of experience with custom, who has 100% satisfaction guarantee. And then moving forward, use the advice of the professional to find out information about materials and what would be good. Pricing is definitely the next thing. So there's design and then there's pricing. Decide what sort of budget, get some idea of what things will cost, and then decide how much you're comfortable spending, and then figure out what your materials should be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great advice.
Thanks.
Let's talk about the business side a little bit. Earlier, you
Okay.
talked about you don't carry any inventory, which, I mean, being a custom shop, that's probably the norm for custom shops, right? But do you find that that's actually really better for you? I mean, I gotta imagine that most jewelry shops carry a lot of inventory, and it's probably,
Huge.
stuff that's just sitting there and no one ever buys. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many different designs today. It's just like, oh man, it would drive me nuts as a numbers guy. I'd be looking at all this inventory going, what the hell?
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. Well, business to business, carrying inventory, one, it puts your cash on hold. Number two, sometimes you can turn it and sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
And in the case of, like, when the economy crashed, it was companies that were holding huge inventories that went down because they couldn't get rid of it. It's like the melt value, right?
Right.
Whatever the cost of gold is. So, and when I say no inventory, we do actually have at least a couple hundred rings, but the majority of them are prototypes.
Right.
So I have a huge collection of prototypes that we've made of our favorite rings, you know, our favorite styles, all the classic traditional styles. You can see different size stones, different band widths. I mean, you come in, if you come into the store, you get to have a full spread of designs and variations, metal colors, band widths, stone sizes, you know, all that stuff. So we not only have prototypes, we have live goods, so real rings that we've made, so you can see our quality and so you can get inspired by colors, and then also all the parts, right? Like different materials that you can look at and play
different
with.
stones and different things. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, you mean you have to have some stuff, unless you're completely online, then you could, I guess you would just have pictures, but
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's great. I mean, did you guys, when you first started out, did you always wanted to be a custom ring shop, or did you decide that you wanted, did you
Oh
start
no.
one way and then went some other way?
Well, in 1999, I was making like rocket ships and like spaceship earrings and like little alien pendants and stuff. I mean, my design sense, you know, very futuristic sort of. It was the relic of the future was my ultimate, you
I
know,
gotcha.
like
Yeah.
style. And then put some of those, and then I launched a website actually in 1999, and I had my rocket ship earrings and lockets. I actually thought, because I made a beautiful collection of lockets, made this whole process on making lockets, taught classes on making lockets, and I thought, I'm gonna be famous, or I'm gonna be, you know, I'm gonna make it on custom lockets. Well, not that many people want a custom locket. So although we still make them, just last year I made a beautiful, an exquisite locket to house the signature of Mother Teresa, an actual signature. So it was a reliquary. It was really beautiful. It had a little stand and custom chain. Oh my God, it was gorgeous. So, but you know, one every couple of years I'll make.
Sure.
Anyway, so then launched our first website in 1999 and put everything on it, including pictures of Mokume wedding band that I had made. So, and then come 2002, where I had my first child, and I'm like, what am I doing with this business? You know, if I have like all this stuff for shows, I don't want to do shows. I'm not getting any, you know, I don't know how to, maybe I should go get a job. And then, you know, if on this website that we put, the only thing I get every couple of months is a, you know, question about these Mokume wedding rings. I'm like, if I had just done wedding rings right from the beginning, I would be successful now. I should do wedding rings.
Yeah.
So that was my pinnacle moment. Yeah, under the pomegranate tree. Yeah.
When did you guys actually open the store downtown?
Downtown was 5 years ago exactly. So 2015. Yeah.
Okay, when they started doing all that refurbishing and stuff?
Yeah, right when the streetcar was finishing up.
Nice.
So, and I wouldn't, you know, when I moved down there, I was actually looking for inexpensive. I needed more square footage. We had like 12 people at the time, or 14, I don't know. And we were on top of each other. We had already moved twice before. So we had been at, you know, just expanding. And I didn't necessarily want to have a showroom and a retail space, but it was literally the cheapest thing I could find in Tucson.
Wow.
It was cheaper than the business park. Wow. So yeah, and I got a killer price on it. And then it was just such a beautiful space. I mean, now we have the very front, front 1/6 of the space is showroom. And then it goes design center, and then workshop, and then modeling, and more, you know, blasting and sandblasting and buffing, and then photography and media, and, you know, programming, and, you know, the IT and shipping and marketing and bookkeeping, you know, so, but just a little bit in the front. Beautiful showroom though. But the thing is that I really need a public space, because people come from out of state to come design their rings with us. So I had to have something beautiful, you know, I had to have something beautiful for them.
Yeah. So what would you say then for business is working well for you guys right now?
What is working well?
Yeah. What is working well for you right now?
Business wise or design wise?
What would you say is working well for you?
What is working well for us is me being CEO. No, just kidding.
I couldn't tell.
I love business. I'm actually a business coach on the side too.
Nice.
I do love business. I love building things. I love systems. I love beautiful jewelry. You know, I love designing jewelry. And so what works for us is having a team that over time, you know, I've handed my hats off and I got off the bench and I got off the sales desk. And so building a team that each person that I've hired and trained and brought in is better than I ever was at that. So creating a team that's super expert and passionate and works together, and we have a really high sort of consciousness at the company. So it's just, I mean, we have a blast, and we just, like at this point, 20 years later, with the size of the team that I have, with the expertise that we have, I feel like there's no question we can't answer. So every day is just fun. You know, I have an apprentice designer, and she's coming on her year 1, and she's amazing. So I have design support too. And
Nice.
I mean, so what's working for us is the people.
How hard was it for you as a, owner to, like, two things? One is, when did you feel like you had to transition, and how hard was that, the transition to start bringing on full-time staff and employees, because that's a big deal for businesses? And then the second thing is, as you brought them on, how hard was it for you to delegate off some of the responsibilities, like no longer doing the design work, no longer, you know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes that could be difficult.
For many people, especially entrepreneurs who have a passion for a product, because they start their business because they're like expert at this one particular product. For many entrepreneurs, it is difficult. It just so happens that I love hiring, training, and delegating work.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, so it was never, I mean, right in the beginning, I could see if, like back in 1999, when I hired my first employee, I could see at that point, if it was just me, I would never be able to get it all done, because you've got the finance, you've got the marketing, you've got the product, and you have to spend time in each area. And I took a risk, definitely, with my first full-time employee. Actually, the first one would have been part-time to help me make some stuff. And then, but my first full-time employee was then 2002, after I launched the website, because it was starting to sell. And I just knew, and every single person I've hired, almost every single hire I've made has been a risk. It's not because money's just flowing in and I got all kinds of money to spend on hiring people. It's because to grow to the next level, I knew that I had to delegate out something, and it was usually something that I was doing. You know, a year ago right now, or a couple of years ago right now, I was a sales manager, and I was the marketing director, and I was CEO. I mean, that's just a few years ago, right? Yeah. Those were my last little bits. Everything else was delegated, and even delegating out those things I've done now. I'm still in marketing, but
yeah,
and design.
That's okay. I mean, but you're always going to have your finger into every little thing.
Oh yeah,
to some degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's got to be every time you hire someone, it's a risk, right? Because
totally.
You know, you hope you find the right person, you connect, they work well with the team, you know, and everything just kind of meshes together. But then, you know, there's always the possibility that it may not work out.
Yeah.
And you just have to do it again.
In a small business, every person you hire, almost needs to have the entrepreneur mindset, because they've got to take the system that you've probably half-assed given to them, right? Because in a small business, you know,
there's no process and procedures. No.
Well, I'm really good at systems, so I hand people these things, but if they're not entrepreneurial minded, like forward thinking, creative thinking, what happens is entropy. If they just do what you tell them and they follow everything to the letter, and you give them a good system, a year later there will be degradation. The system will start to degrade. So it's crazy. It's crazy what I find after people who've been in a clerk position for a couple of years, and I go in to like clean it up and get the next person, and I'm like, what the heck were they doing here? You know, like that was true 2 years ago, but it's not true anymore.
It's true. It's true. It's true, because you can find people that are like, just give me the list of things you want me to do and I'll do it. right?
Yeah.
And there are people that are like that. And if you have specific roles where you need people like that, then you should try to find the people that are like that.
Yeah,
And
totally.
they probably will do a really good job for you just doing that. But if you're looking for someone to like, hey, I have a general idea of what I want to do. Here's what I'm doing now. I
Hmm.
want you to take it to the next level. That's a different mindset completely.
And yeah, and they're harder, much harder to find.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I
My
know.
team is full of gems, and this is 20 years later, right?
Yeah,
So it's
that's awesome.
not every single person was the first person I hired in that position.
No.
I've gotten really good at it though,
Yeah.
and setting up the systems and making sure that there's always a checks and balances of improve it, improve it, improve it. Now
Yeah.
I just drill it into them. Make it
Yeah.
an asset. If you don't, if you don't keep that, write that down, save it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
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 well, it's true, right? I mean, everything you do, you have to figure out, okay, how do I improve that? How do I save it? How do
absolutely,
I automate it? How do I, it's
absolutely.
in software development, we use a thing called feedback loops.
Hmm.
And basically, when you're developing software, you want to try to get feedback as quickly as you can, because if you don't, what happens is you build this thing that you thought that they wanted, and then you give it to them, and they go, "That's not what I wanted at all." And so
Right,
you try to figure out, how can I move them closer to when I'm actually doing the development to get the feedback more
right.
quickly, so that by the time they get what they want, then it's you're done, right? There's not this
Exactly.
quick feedback. So that's good. What
Yep.
would you say right now are your biggest challenges?
Well, always Google. I mean,
Yeah,
me and Google, we go down, we go back. Yeah. So we had, I mean, in the fall, Google had an algorithm change,
yeah.
and we lost our positioning, and I had to lay off some people.
Wow.
So that happens to an internet. I mean, that is the cost of doing business the way we do it. So we're back on track though. Biggest challenges is cash flow. Cash flow is
Always.
always the biggest
Yeah,
challenge.
always. Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's for every business, right?
Yeah.
How do we get the money in and keep it coming in, and then be able to reinvest in our company and make a profit, right? So you can grow,
Hmm.
right? If you're not
Yeah.
making a profit, I hate to say it, but if we're not making a profit, we're not growing, right?
Yeah.
Right? I
Exactly
mean, that's the
right.
bottom line. You can't
Yeah.
grow if you're not making a profit. You just
Yep.
can't do it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Um, would you, what did you like, so let's say someone wanted to get into jewelry making, or what advice would you have for
Don't do it. No, I'm kidding.
them?
Well, jewelry making is great. I'll tell you what, if somebody wants to get into jewelry making, finding a bench jeweler is hard. So if somebody actually has a passion for jewelry making and they don't necessarily want to run their own business, there are job opportunities for bench jewelers. So if
Really?
you love that, that is definitely, that is a career that you can go into. There's a shortage. I mean, we talk about it in the industry.
Yeah.
How do we get people interested in being a bench jeweler? Now, if there's all different kinds of jewelry, so you may
Sure.
also be, there's beaded work, then people are like, oh, I want to open an Etsy shop and do crafty things, or, be a bench jeweler and sell it on Etsy.
What would
Oh,
you,
what
so I'm not familiar with the terminology, but what is a bench jeweler?
bench jeweler is somebody who works at a bench. It looks like a desk, but it's smaller. It has all the jewelry tools,
Okay.
and they're a real jeweler. There's saws and files, and they've got their drills, and it's where they do their stone setting and wax working, and so
Okay.
it's like a
They
jeweler.
go to school for that, or they go to some training for that, or how's that work?
Anything could be
Wow.
anything. Yeah,
Okay.
could be
Yeah.
anything.
Passed down from parent to parent.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So, my advice would be, well, if you want to make jewelry, make jewelry. And if you want to make money making jewelry, then it's either you're getting a job or you're having a business.
Yeah.
If you're considering having a business, my advice would be think long and hard and know what, I mean, if you have a financial backing, then, you're lucky and have fun. And
Yeah.
if you don't, good luck and
Yeah.
get some help. I would
Yeah.
definitely say get a mentor or a coach or somebody so that you can avoid the common pitfalls, because it is a slippery slope.
Yeah. Well,
And
anybody starting a business it's always a slippery slope, right?
it
I mean,
absolutely is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Any kind of
And
business.
any kind of business. The thing with jewelry is so expensive.
Yeah.
So, you know, materials are expensive, tools are expensive. So not only is it being an entrepreneur and knowing how to start a business, it's that, you know, that cost of goods is so high.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, I mean, well, that's good for people that are in the business, but also kind of bad for people that want to start learning and getting into the thing because the barrier to entry is higher than normal.
it is, yeah.
You know, it's not like you want to be, you know, it's not like a planner or a photographer, right? It's
Right. Yeah.
quite
I mean,
different.
they have equipment too, but you know, then it's not, they don't even have film anymore, you know,
Right.
so
The equipment's a lot less expensive
yeah.
than buying a bunch of saws and a bunch of gold and platinum and palladium and
Oh
all
my
kinds of
gosh,
stuff to try to,
diamonds. You
you're
kidding?
right, right? You know, that
Yeah.
gets pretty expensive pretty fast, I gotta imagine.
And what starts to get very expensive for a beginning business is like returns, unhappy customers. So that like super high level of customer service and quality, people expect.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, so you have to be super careful and cautious and proceed carefully and don't melt your ring down and don't break the stone and don't upset your clients. But all those things just cost an enormous amount of money.
Yeah, I agree. Last question. What's your best or worst wedding or business story? Either one.
Best or worst, not one
Best
of each.
or worst, wedding or business story.
So, um, well, how about a best and a worst all in one?
Sounds good.
So we had a client from Canada who placed an order the year before last for a full suite. Wasn't the largest order we had ever taken. It was close to, but they didn't have really expensive center stones. But it's probably the largest dollar order we've ever taken for an individual couple with like for the mountings without center stones. I could say that was probably the largest order we've taken. And it was a gorgeous bracelet, a hummingbird bracelet. I mean, that thing took weeks to make. That was a slave bracelet. It had a chain down to a ring, this incredible ring with mokume and branches and stones and daisies.
Wow.
And the man's matching wedding set. And we had an employee. In hindsight, I can say she was going downhill, but I didn't know it.
Yeah.
She was having personal issues. She was an amazing employee. And unfortunately, at the end of the story, we had to let her go. However, in the middle of the story, she dropped the ball on their deadline.
Oh.
And we came up to we sort of discovered in this period where she was dropping all this stuff, we came upon this order that had, you know, like already $20,000 had been put down or something like that on this order for this entire suite that wasn't even quite finished in the design phase. And we were looking at the clock going, holy shit, we got like 4 weeks to get this to Toronto. But, you know, customs as it is going to bite a week out of that.
Yeah. So
and we don't have this material and we don't have, you know, this final approval from the client. And it got closer and closer and closer. I mean, my sales manager took over the job and started like working as fast as she could to get the information to put the job into production. And I worked on that hummingbird bracelet myself, which I don't often get into the shop, but it was this hinged cuff. I mean, 60-hour piece with, it's crazy gorgeous. And we flew to Toronto to deliver it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I said in the 2 weeks left, I said to Lakari, my business partner, who's my CFO, I said, this is not going to be done. We need to look for tickets. Mm-hmm. Because he's made a huge order, and if we ship it and hope that it makes it through customs to meet his deadline, like that's not good enough. That's not good enough. Well, what if customs holds it for an extra day? You know,
exactly.
like
no.
I said it's not good enough. So my sales manager was relatively new, so we decided that the three of us, my CFO, Lakari, Nicole, my sales manager, and myself, we decided let's all three go and make it a, you know, getting to know you and planning for next year. So the three of us flew to Toronto. We had an amazing time. The couple, oh, they were, I mean, they were so beautiful and grateful, and we sat for hours with them getting their stories about how they met and the flowers and the magical love story. Wow. And yeah, it was incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah, they were very grateful, and it ended beautifully.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great story. Thanks so much. Both good and bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Lisa, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
You're welcome.
Nice to meet you.
It was fun. Nice to meet you too.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. I hope that you found it helpful. Please share it with other people. Also, if you're getting married or you work in the wedding industry, I would love to interview and share your information with other people. Send me a text, 520-399-8580, or shoot me an email at letschat@wedding.report.